and welcome to the first episode of the Betty Makes Club podcast. My name is Elizabeth and I'm coming to you from a small town in the middle of the US. And this is going to be my first podcast. I did an episode 0, just about everything that I knit this past year, but this is going to be the first podcast with the normal podcast format. I have a few things I want to talk about here at the beginning, and then I'm going to do finished objects, works in progress, and acquisitions. And this is going to be a long one because I want to cover all of the works in progress I have, which is a lot. But yeah, with that being said, let's just get started. So the first thing I want to talk about a little bit is what yarns you can expect to see in this podcast. And the reason I want to talk about that is because when I first really started getting into watching knitting podcasts, I wish sometimes that I would have had that information just to know if the individuals were going to be using similar yarns to me. So if you watched episode 0, you'll know that everything I knit last year was plant-based fibers. So you can expect to see lots of plant-based fibers and also acrylics, synthetic fibers. I'm totally okay with using those types of yarns. And plant-based fibers oftentimes can be expensive, especially if they're hand-dyed. But acrylic-based fibers and like commercially dyed plant-based fibers are a little bit cheaper. So the projects like that will be more cost-effective. And then I do like to get yarns secondhand for sure, so thrifting, destashes, those types of things are great for animal fibers. I love hand-dyed yarn for socks especially because I really like the aspect of being able to support a small business and artists that are dyeing yarn for their livelihood. I really like that aspect. And I do have some wool yarns in stash from just big box suppliers like Hobby, so you'll see some of that. Moving forward with my purchases and acquisitions, you can expect to hear some information about where, if it's an animal fiber, where that's coming from. I do want to focus on that if it's something for me or yarn that I've bought, that I at least know the company's process for the most part and where the wool or animal fibers source from. But the main focus is always going to be either secondhand yarn or plant-based fibers and synthetics. So that's a little bit about the yarns that you can expect to see in this podcast. On my Instagram, I am trying to highlight the information that I have from businesses or hand dyers of animal fibers, if I have information about where their wool comes from and stuff like that. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm saving that information as I learn it, and so that can be a reference for me mostly and anyone else that's interested in that kind of thing. With that out of the way, we can get started on finished objects. So I'm actually wearing my one and only finished object for today, and I won't stand up because I'm gonna go ahead and put some video in of this, but this is the Totally Tubular Turtleneck by Park Williams. The pattern has a finished chest measurement of 34 inches to 66 inches, and I made an extra large. I did not gauge swatch. I pretty much never gauge swatch. I'm trying to change that. You'll see that in my WIPs, but I did an extra large and I love how it fits. The recommended needles are 10.5 for the body and a 9 for the ribbing, and that's what I did. There are a couple things that I want to talk about. So one, the neck, the cuffs, and the hemband, I didn't measure or anything. I never really measure to match the pattern. I just knit until I like it. So my neck definitely is a lot shorter than in the pattern because I just knew I don't like things like, I don't like to feel like I'm choking. So I just made this a lot shorter. The arms, I think I also made quite a bit shorter because the decreases are supposed to be every 5 rounds on the arms. I did every 4 rounds, so that shortened it some to begin with. but I still like decreased all the way like to here, and I ended up not doing one of the last decreases, and then I just knit the cuffs because I did want them to fold over, but I didn't want it to be super long. So that's something to keep in mind. I'll definitely put up pictures, but in the design the arms are very long, so it's all bunchy, and I just didn't want that. I knew that was going to annoy me. Another thing, I accidentally, one of the arms, I can't remember which it is because I don't really think you can tell. Maybe you can. It might be this one. One of the arms I accidentally knit on a 9 because I had finished the sleeve and the ribbing was a 9, and then I just forgot to change it back to 10.5. So I feel like maybe you can tell. It might be this one. It's a little tighter, but no big deal. The other thing, and I'll talk about the yarn here in a second, but I did obviously, well, I think you can tell. I got different dye lots, so there's definitely a line here, and I think there's a line right here, because I didn't do any helical knitting or anything, but that doesn't bother me. For the yarn, I used this Yarn Bee Tender Touch in the color Dove. This is a bulky weight yarn, and I got it from Hobby Lobby. Now, I do want to mention that I don't love the idea of shopping at Hobby Lobby, but it's the only craft store that I have that's like less than 2 hours away, so you know, it is what it is. But I just want to be clear, I don't love shopping there, but I do sometimes because they do have a lot of good yarn options in their brand, and it's very affordable and it's very accessible for a lot of people. So, you know, it is what it is. But this is the yarn that I used. It's 100% acrylic, and I really enjoyed the process of knitting with it. It's very soft. I like how fluffy it is. It's got a little bit of a halo kind of thing going on. I don't have a lot more to say about it. I really enjoy it. I like the fit. The pattern was good. I didn't have any problems with it, and it knit up pretty fast. It would have knit up even faster, but I did actually have to take a break on it for a while because I don't like doing magic loop for sleeves. I always use my ChiaoGoo shorties. I have some of the red set, the whole blue set, but the blue set only goes up to a US size 8, and I of course needed a 10.5 and a 9 for the sleeves. And there is actually a yellow set. ChiaoGoo has a yellow set that has, I believe, 9 to 11 maybe, and I just wasn't quite ready to buy that yet because they are kind of expensive. The sets are like $100. I got the yellow set for only $75 on smartisans.com. That's where I pretty much order all my ChiaoGoo needles. So I did take a break on it for a little bit until I was ready to buy those needles. This is actually the first sweater I've ever knit for myself, the first like acrylic garment I've ever knit for myself, the first warm thing I've ever knit for myself. And actually I do have this whole ball left and part of another. So I'm thinking I'd really like to do like a headband to cover my ears. So that's probably what I'll use the leftover of this for. My first WIP I want to talk about is very exciting. It is the Belle Mullet Pullover by Andrea Gaughan. So I went to Ireland this past summer with my mom, which I think I will be talking about a lot with a lot of these WIPs. But one of the things that she wanted was to buy yarn there for a sweater for her, and she did do that, and I actually knit her a sweater this past year, but she also got another sweater's quantity of yarn, and we weren't sure what we were going to do with it. And then I saw this pattern, and I can't remember what yarn the pattern calls for, but I believe that the grams to yards was perfect for the yarn that she got. So I decided to do this pattern with this yarn. So the yarn is Studio Donegal Soft Donegal. So that is the yarn. It is a worsted weight, and this is what it looks like. It's in the color Oatmeal. I've already got, I didn't do a very good job caking this up. I've already got some skeins caked up. I believe she bought 7 skeins, and I was a little worried about running out, and so I did order another 2 from This Is Knit, which is the store that we picked it up from. It's a yarn store in Dublin. I love that store. The people there were so nice, and like I said, I've placed an order with them and some other yarn in there because they were having a end of the year sale, and they do ship to the US. I think it's like a flat rate of 15 euros, which is that like 20 US dollars. I mean, I guess that's kind of expensive, but it's coming from Dublin, and you know, it's a local yarn store to Dublin, and they were just so nice. I loved it there, so I have no problem doing that, and I will probably order from them more in the future as well. So I do have this in one of my This Is Knit tote bags. This is what I have so far. So I don't know how well you're going to be able to see, but I know I will have put pictures up of the pattern. But here is the cabling. It's got this honeycomb cable in the middle, and then this one's my favorite, just this classic cable, and then this, and then it has moss stitch. So I did read the little like intro pattern that like intro blurb that Andrea has on the pattern, and she said that this is inspired by just traditional Irish sweaters and designs, because I believe her grandparents are from Ireland or something of that nature. And so I just thought that this was a perfect pattern. So a couple things. I do have, let's see, this little stitch marker, and this one I also got at This Is Knit. So those are my Irish stitch markers. And this is the, let's see, is that the back? This I believe is the back. So this is the neck, and then I'm going to knit down, like really far down the back panel, and then I believe you come back and pick up stitches here on the shoulders. So this is the first cables I've ever done. Well, I don't think that's true. I think in high school I maybe knit like a ear, what it was called, like a headband to cover your ears that was cabled, but since I've gotten back into knitting, this is the first cabling that I've done. So I am using the technique that you can knit without cables, which has made this a lot easier. I first started it using a cable needle, and it was kind of a pain. I will say that this is very hard on my hands, and that is because this yarn is, I mean, I don't know much about wool yarns because I really don't use them very often, but to me this is very woolly. Like it's not, I don't believe it's superwash or anything. Like it's not very soft. And I know, you know, with wash and wear, like it'll get soft, but it's pretty stiff. It doesn't have any like stretch or anything. And it's just, it feels like what I would imagine fleece, like a sheep's fleece feels like. So that combined with the cables, and I think at the very beginning I was just knitting very tightly, definitely was hard on my hands. And at first I was like, oh man, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this. But now that I've gotten the rhythm down and I figured out how to do the cables without a cable needle, and I've gotten a little looser, this is going really great. So I am using Knit Companion, which I've never done before, to look at the charts. Now that I've got this pattern established, do I keep showing the, yeah, this is the front. Now that I've got the pattern established, like it's pretty easy to see where you are. I'm not gonna say that I'm completely doing it without the chart, but it's, for as beautiful and intricate as it is, it's not like super difficult to figure out once you have the pattern established where you are. But the Knit Companion allows me to highlight what row I'm on, which is really nice. And then I also actually printed out the pattern, and I've been writing like now I know how many rows of the pattern I need to do for the back panel, and I just wrote down the numbers and I'm crossing them out as I go. So that's how I'm keeping track of where I am, because I do not want to mess this up at all. like I said, this is for my mom, and I want it's special yarn and special pattern, and I want it to be as perfect as I can get it. So that's how I'm keeping track of where I am. So like I said, I never knit swatches, but I was determined to get the sizing on this right, and so I did actually knit swatches for this, and this was my first swatch. The pattern says to do the swatch in moss stitch, so I did not swatch the cables, so I hope that's okay. But I did this swatch in moss stitch using the recommended size 7 needle, and at first I measured it, and well, I blocked it and then I measured it, and I think I got 15 per 4 inches, and I was like, meh, it's fine. But then I was like, no, I'm doing, like, if I'm gonna go to the trouble of doing a swatch, I should do it right. So because the gauge is 17 stitches. So I went ahead and knit another swatch, and you probably can't see the difference between the two, but this one I got 17 stitches on a US 6 needle. So I'm doing it with a US 6, which is 1 down. And so I hope the sizing is perfect. As far as the pattern goes, it definitely like it's not holding your hand at all. I mean, the instructions are very clear, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of expecting you to be able to figure out like how the charts work and that kind of thing. It'll probably be something that just takes me a long time. I'm certainly not going to get it done before the end of this winter, so I'll just be aiming to have it done for her by next fall. One other thing about that pattern actually is that it comes in 2 fits. So there's fit 1, which is a more like traditionally feminine fit, and fit 2, which is a more like traditionally masculine fit. And I'm doing fit 1 for my mom. And I really like that, because I think something about a lot of patterns is like, of course, any garment can be any gender, like clothes are genderless, right? But for people that are, I guess, assigned female at birth, or just people that have like feminine leaning bodies, you might have like a smaller waist or like more narrow shoulders, or if you have a more like traditionally masculine shaped body, you might have broader shoulders, and so I just think it's nice that there are those 2 fits, and that Andrea has been mindful to not call them like male and female, because it's really just how your body is shaped for one, and how you want the garment to be shaped. So in that way you can pick whichever you want, instead of just knitting the same garment and being like, oh yeah, anyone can wear it. So of course that's true, but there might be certain aspects of how you want it to fit that like goes one way or the other. So I think that's really nice that you get both of those in one pattern. So my next project is in this tattooing bag that I got from my friend. This is my Stripe Hype pullover by Veronica Lindbergh. Here it is. Oh, it's so pretty. I'm just about done with the body. I need to put it on try it on tubing and try it on before I do the last stripe and see how long it is. But this is a very popular pattern, and for good reason. It's so easy. You just start with the back and you basically knit a rectangle. I don't even remember if there was any shaping here. There might not be for the back. I can't remember. But then you knit the shoulders and pick up for shoulders, and there is some shaping here, and you connect for sleeves and just knit down. And yeah, so everyone's been knitting this pattern. I wanted to knit it too. It's just a really cute pattern. So it's super easy to get started. The pattern has a finished chest circumference of 35.5 inches to 70 inches, so very size inclusive. I am doing an extra large. I did not swatch, and I'm using the recommended needles for a US size 6. For the yarn on this is hobby yarn that I got during Black Friday. So it's the Highland wool, which is 100% wool. These are 50-gram balls. It is a DK weight sweater. So this is my main color, and my contrast colors are this maroon color this light blue color. And then the ones I've already knit, this gray, which is very similar to the gray that I have on. This blue, which is my favorite. I love this color. And then the light purple. So I just got one ball of each of the contrast colors, and this is how much I have left after finishing the stripes. So, you know, that's really good. You could just use scraps. You could do like every stripe a different color. That would be awesome. So I think the potential for this is really nice. And the yarn I've enjoyed using. This is nice yarn. I think it's very affordable. I don't know that I will be buying it again, just for my how I want my personal yarn choices to be moving forward. But if you're interested in that type of yarn, I think it's a really good choice. And they have a ton of colors. So I just love how this is working up. I can't wait to do the sleeves and continue on this and see how it turns out. The pattern is really good. I haven't had any troubles with it, so I definitely recommend it so far. All right, so my next WIP is in this project bag that I made. This is the large size of the project bag. I will link the designer of the pattern. You can get the pattern on Etsy, and then she has a YouTube as well, and she has a video about how to make these. And the pattern just contains the measurements for the small and the large, I believe. Well, it has the medium too, but the medium's in the video. So I made this one, and this cute fabric is from Spoonflower, and then I have these labels that say handmade with love from Sarah Hart's, which is a company out of North Carolina. So in here I have my Corn Cardigan by Rebecca Clow. This is an all over lace cardigan, and same as most of Rebecca Clow's designs, the pattern comes with lots of options. You can do long sleeve, short sleeve. I believe there's like a round neck cardigan and a V-neck cardigan, and then maybe like a cropped length and a longer length, which that to me is like, I mean, you can always lengthen or shorten something you're knitting, so that to me isn't really like a perk of the pattern, I guess. But it is a cardigan, so it's of course knitted flat, and this is what I have so far. Ooh, wow, this color is gorgeous. Stretch it out a little bit so you can see the lace. This pattern has a finished bust circumference of 34 inches to 64 inches, so variant size inclusive. I am doing a size 6, I believe. Yeah, size 6, and I'm using the recommended needles of US 8. The yarn I'm using is the I Love This yarn. This is a really cheap 100% acrylic yarn that you can get at Hobby Lobby. They have it in a ton of colors, so it's very accessible, and it's very soft. I mean, it's a cheap acrylic yarn, so I don't really know what more to say about it. Like I said, it's very soft. It doesn't have any give or anything. So this pattern with the all over lace and this yarn is a little bit hard on my hands. So this is probably something that's going to take me a while, also because it's knit flat. So there's quite a bit of purling, which sometimes can be a little bit harder on my hands for the way that I knit. And so this will probably just take me a while, but I mean, I love the color. It's beautiful, and this is soft, and so I think it'll be beautiful once it's done. It's just going to be something that's, you know, on the needles for a long time, that I just do a couple rows every once in a while. The pattern so far has been really good. I haven't had any problems with it. So that's my Corn Cardigan. My next WIP is in another one of those bags. This is the medium size, and just have this fabric that my mom got in Alaska while she was on a trip there, and another one of those labels. So this is my Kuatar Tee by Sari Nordland, and this is probably my longest standing WIP like ever. I started it in the summer of 2022, and well, I have a lot to say about it, but let me just show you what I have first. that is what I have so far. It looks really funny, all bunched up at the bottom. But this is an all over, well, a lace yoke t-shirt. Let's see, it is a t-shirt in the pattern, so, and it is the Kutar lace pattern. She's got a couple other patterns with this lace motif. And it's beautiful, and I love how it looks on me, but I hate knitting lace yokes. I absolutely hate it. I'm never doing it again. So much so that when I really got into knitting this pattern, like once I realized how much I hated it, I went through my Ravelry favorites and unfavorited any lace yoke pattern. And the reason is because when you, of course, do a yoke, like a circular yoke, your increases are just incorporated into the pattern. And so that means that it's not an all over lace pattern that, like, for some people it might be memorizable, but for me it was not. I had to read the chart every single time. And you know, like once I started a row, like after a couple repeats I might remember the pattern, but every row I had to look at the new pattern, and I just did not enjoy it. So the reason why this has taken me so long is because I started it in the summer of 2022, and at first I think I started knitting it, and then a traumatic life event happened and I didn't knit for a long time. So when I went to go pick it back up, I couldn't remember where I was, so I had to rip it out and start it over. So I started it over, and I got a little ways, you know, and then because I always have like multiple WIPs, so I maybe wasn't working on it for a while, so I'd pick it back up and like realize I'd messed up and couldn't figure it out, so I had to rip it out and start it over again. So I think I started it 3 times. It might have been more, but I'm pretty sure it was 3. So eventually I realized that I was going to mess up. Like I was just going to mess up no matter what. And so my solution was that I had markers, which maybe this is something that everybody realizes they should do, but I didn't realize it. I had markers for every repeat. So that way, when I would get to the end of a repeat, if I didn't have the right stitches, like I knew I messed up, but at that point I could just pick up a stitch. And so it was okay. And so in that way, eventually I finished the yoke. So even after doing that, I mean, it did take me at least a year once I figured out to put the markers in the repeats, because I just hated working on it so much. So the yoke is finally finished. I'm so happy about that. I finished the sleeves recently, although one of them I think I accidentally knitted shorter. And I tried it on and I like it, but the sleeves kind of like stick out, and so I might go back and knit them longer and do some decreases. I'm not sure, but the main focus right now is to just finish the body. This pattern has a finished bust circumference of 30.25 inches to 60.25 inches, so pretty size inclusive. I'm knitting a size 5, and the needles are a 2.5 for the ribbing and a 3 US 2.5 for the ribbing and a US 3 for the body. So they're pretty small needles. So now that I'm on the body, it's just, you know, it's just taken me a long time. So the yarn I actually really like. It's 100% cotton yarn. This is the Fibra Natura Cotton True Sport in this beautiful green color. And I really like this yarn. I 100% could see myself using it again. It is a 100% cotton yarn, but it's 100% Pima cotton, so it's pretty soft. And it's just, I know a lot of people have trouble knitting with cotton yarns, and I could definitely see that if you're knitting with like the dishwasher cotton that you use to make like dishcloths, but this is not like that. I have absolutely no problem with this. I guess I'm not using wooden needles. I'm using metal needles, so that helps. But yeah, I really like this yarn, and I really like how it looks in the garment. I think it's going to be a beautiful summer garment to wear, and I would love to use this yarn more. My mom got me this yarn. It's $6.99 a ball, and it's 197 yards per 50 grams. So I don't really know if that's expensive or cheap off the top of my head, but I like it. I only have this full ball left and a little bit of another, so I hope you know, I'll just knit until it's long enough. I guess I didn't think about if I run out of yarn, I won't be able to make the sleeves longer, but I'm sure it'll be okay. All right, I believe this is the last garment. Yeah, the last garment WIP I have to show. So this is in another one of these bags. This is the small size, and I just have a little handmade label. This is my mini mock neck tank by Jessie Made Designs. If you watched episode 0, I've made 2 of these already, one for myself and one for a friend. This is a really good pattern that does not take up very much yarn. If you want it really cropped and you're a smaller size, you can certainly do it with 1 skein of fingering weight yarn. The first one I knit myself, I only used 1 skein of a heavy fingering weight yarn, but it is very cropped. Like I can certainly wear it, but it's very cropped. So if you're a little bit of a larger size, you probably be better off with 2, or if you are a smaller size but you want it pretty long. Here is what I have so far. It doesn't look like much, but I have connected on the body, so this is also just stockinette right now. So with this one, you knit the back, and you knit the back, and then you pick up for the side, and you just do quite a bit of shaping, and then you connect on the side, and it has this ribbing on the underarm, and it's done in such a way that you have, you know, you can't kind of see it, but you have this ribbing on the edges, and so the edges are done. You don't have to pick them up and finish them later or do like an I-cord or anything like that. So it's a really fun pattern to knit because you kind of have like some stuff to do that's not hard, but like stuff to read at the beginning, but then eventually you know, do it on the body, and then from there it's just knit around and round and round because you don't have anything you have to go back and do. Actually, that's a lie. You do have to go back and pick up at the neck and do that, but that's where I'm at so far. And I want you to look at the fabric and tell me, do you think those are the same yarns? So I have these 2 colors, which are not the same color. You can see this one's just teal and yellow, and this one has a lot more. It has that pink in it and stuff. So these are the Swanky Sock Base from Magpie Fibers. I got these 2 on Destashify, which is a website that is now closed, so that stinks, but last year. And I went to knit a sock with this one, and it was the first time that I tried it on a 9-inch circular, and so I used a size 0 because Crazy Sock Lady, she says she goes down to a 0, and I didn't need to do that for my gauge. The sock ended up way too tight, and I ripped it out, and I was like, what am I gonna do with this yarn? Because it is a like merino nylon blend, but it has like 5 or 10% cashmere in it, and so it's very soft. And I don't know, I just didn't really want it in socks because I knew they wouldn't last very long, or you know, I thought they might not last very long. So I was like, what am I gonna do with that? Because they're not the same color. But I thought I'm just going to do helical knitting on a mini mock neck tank, and I don't think you'll be able to tell. And I don't think you can. I think that with doing every other row, it just looks like this is one variegated skein. Certainly tell me what you think, but I think it looks pretty good, and I'm really happy that I made that decision, and so that I could use both of these skeins of this beautiful yarn in that way. So this pattern has a finished bust circumference of 23.5 to 55.5 inches. It does have negative ease. It has quite a bit of negative ease. So I believe that puts us over the 60-inch bust circumference. So this is a size inclusive pattern. Jessie May's patterns are always size inclusive. And I do a large on this. I usually do a large in her patterns because I used to do an extra large, and there's a lot of ease, and it's sometimes just a little bit too much for me. So I do a large on this pattern, and the first one I made, I really liked how it fit at a large. And this is on a US size 4 needle, and of course I did not swatch for it. So my next WIP is in a medium size bag. I guess I didn't have a label on this one. I think it was the first one I made. a Halloween bag, even though it's not Halloween. But this is a crochet WIP, and this is the Battenberg blanket by Sandra Paul. So this is a free pattern, and it's a crochet blanket pattern where you just crochet all these little squares. So I'll show you some of them. I am using a US 4 hook. I think she uses a 3 in the pattern, so my squares are a little bit bigger than hers. But I just love this. I'm obviously not going to show you all of them, but they're all different. They're all using different yarns. And I just love this. So this is all I have right now. It's obviously going to take me a very long time because you have to make a ton of these. And then the idea is that you, of course, you can do whatever you want, but I'm going to have a base color, probably just a cream, and connect these all together in that way, and then do like a border. So what I'm using for this blanket is I actually get a subscription called Row 1. It's on pause right now, but I have been getting it for not quite a year, but it comes with 10 little tiny mini skeins like this. And it always says every month it's a different hand dyer. So it always says the dyer and then the name of the color. And they're usually like in a color scheme that goes together. And so I'm just using all these little mini skeins. At first I was only gonna do 1 square per little skein, but it takes hardly any of this for a little mini square. So I might do more than that. But I just love getting these. I just love that it's a different dyer every month, and it's like scrappy without having to buy like, you know, 10 different skeins of sock yarns to like get the scraps. And so you can do scrappy socks, you could do like a scrappy shawl if that's your kind of thing, or a blanket. And I just love that. So that's what I'm doing with those. This is obviously going to just take me forever because I don't like crocheting as much as knitting, and this is just a long-term WIP. All right, so my next 3 WIPs are socks. Let's see, my relationship with socks. Socks are the main reason why I started to stray a little bit from only buying plant-based yarns, because like I said, I love that indie dyers do collections and you can just buy 1 skein and you can get a beautiful pair of socks from it. I will say that there is a vegan yarn base that all I think of the plant-based dyers that I've found do dye on that base. It's, well, actually I'll talk about it here in a minute. So when I first tried it, I didn't love it, and so I've been buying a lot of hand-dyed yarn for socks. I'm giving it another go, which you'll see in a minute. But my first sock WIP is in this bag. So this small size is perfect for a pair of socks. And here's the sock. I'm just doing stripy socks. So I do have Summer Lee's book, which I'll show here in a minute. And there is a recipe for stripy socks in there. It's not really well, I guess it's a pattern, but you know, it just tells you how many rows to do and stuff. So this is a 64 stitch sock, and I think I did like 15 rows. This is a 2x2 ribbing that I did here. And then every other row is 5 rows of the same color to get this stripiness. I've messed up these socks so many times. I actually kind of like knit a whole sock and I ripped it all out because a lot of the rows were like different numbers and I didn't like it. So I ripped it out and tried to do better about getting all the rows to match up. But I still messed up a ton because, for one thing, when I went to do the heel decrease, somehow I decreased like way far, like all the way down to like 20 stitches, and I'm supposed to have 32. And so I had to rip back and try to like re-put those stitches there, which obviously there was less yarn. And so it got super tight, and so I couldn't get all the way. I only have 30 stitches on the back. So that's so dumb. I mean, obviously I could pick up 2 stitches, but I just think that's so stupid. And then I also messed up the color somewhere. I did the wrong, like, it wasn't the right color next But I still think they're beautiful. This light just makes the color look so good. So this was a mystery mini skein set. I think it was supposed to be like an advent for Halloween, but I just opened it all at once. Inspired by Scooby-Doo from CCM Yarn. And so I just have the minis in here, and I'm just doing these stripy socks. So this is the first one. I'm doing a US 1 on the ChowGoo red lace needles. I'm actually on a journey to try like every one size needle I can for Magic Loop to see which is my favorite, but I think just like everyone else, ChowGoo is probably going to be my favorite. I do prefer to do Magic Loop. I do not mess with double pointed needles. A long time ago, the first time I tried to knit socks, I think I used double pointed needles, and I would do like fingerless gloves and stuff, and I just hate it, so I'm not even doing that now. And 9-inch I'll talk about in a minute, but this Magic Loop is my preferred method. Oh, and I pretty much always follow Crazy Sock Lady Kayla, her vanilla sock for Magic Loop pattern. Most of the socks that I've done have been 64 inches. I am coming to the conclusion that I think that's too big for me, so I'm trying something different, but I always just follow her, how you do the slip stitch, heel, flap, and gusset, and just follow her recipe. Summerlee does do it a little bit different. She does the heel, the slip stitch heel a little bit different, but I don't really like it that way, so I just do the same as Kayla does. And then for the toes, I don't have a finished sock in here yet, but Kayla does hers to, you decrease the toe to like 8 stitches and then Kitchener, and Summerlee does 16, and I actually think the 16 works better for me, so that's what I'll be doing for these as well. So I am trying to figure out my perfect like sock recipe, but obviously it just takes some trial and error. Next, I have a couple WIPs in here, this little Stay Groovy tote bag. So in here I have the Sock Project book by Summerlee, which I think everybody knows about. Summerlee is a amazing sock designer. I just love her use of color and stuff. I usually gravitate towards a little bit more muted colors, but I do really like her style. So these first ones that I have to show you are the Surf Wax socks, and they have this really cool chevron pattern with this like sporty cuff. So I have these going in this pink and red on this, I don't even know what brand this is. It's just a brand that I got from Amazon, and I actually really like these. They're not as heavy as the ChowGoo, but it's a good option. I think they're a little cheaper. US size 1, 64 stitches. The cuff is a 3x1 rib, which I really like, and Summer has a good tip in her book for how to get these clean color changes in ribbing. And then the pattern is there, and I'm just doing a slip stitch, heel, flap, and gusset, and doing the decreases right now. So this yarn, I feel like I rip out socks a lot, or like rip out things and use them for socks a lot, but this yarn also has a story. I actually started doing the Strawberry Colorwork socks by Stone Knits in this pink, red, and a green, and I hate colorwork on socks so far. I am gonna give it another chance, but I just hated that, so I ripped it out, and this is what I'm doing instead. This pink, I don't remember the name, but it's from Full Moon Fibers out of Canada, and the red is a no-name red mini skein that I had. So that's that sock. I don't really have a whole lot else to say about it. I mean, every pattern that Summerlee writes is good. It's just a sock. So the next thing I have to talk about is another sock that I am going to rip out, but this is the vegan sock base that I was talking about. This yarn is from Terrapin Fiberworks. It was her colors that she dyed up for Pi Day last year, so March 14th last year. It was this blue and this purple. So the vegan sock yarn is like heavy fingering. It's a little bit thicker, and you can see, at least definitely in the purple, you can see that the elastic thread that's in the sock doesn't take the dye, so you can see it. That's what that white is. And then there's a couple different blends, but I think it's cotton and tencel, maybe. And I wasn't sure about this the first time I used it. It's definitely a different experience. It's a little harder on your hands, which I usually don't have problems with plant fibers because that's what I'm used to, but this was a little hard on my hands. It's also very splitty because you can definitely see in the yarn, like you can see the strands of the other fibers, and then wrapped in it is the elastic thread. And so it's just a little bit different, but it is a vegan yarn, so I love that. And all of the plant-based dyers that I know of dye that base, so Terrapin Fiberworks, LaRue Cotton, so there are options there. So I'm giving it another chance. The problem with these, well, there were a couple of problems with these, to be honest. One, these are 64-inch or 64 stitch socks, so they're too big for me. Two, somehow my gauge completely changed. So if you watch Crazy Sock Lady, you know that she does this trick with the markers to measure how many rows you do. So I did that. So I knitted the same number of rows, but look at how much different in the size they are. So they're completely different sizes. And then I wasn't sure how I felt about the vegan sock yarn. So I am gonna rip these out and I'm gonna knit them again, but obviously this wasn't a mini skein, it was 2 full skeins. So I still have the remainder of the yarn. Wow. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about that, but so I cast on another sock. I did 60, I'm gonna try 60 stitches. So this is 60 stitches. And I did a 2x2 ribbing, and I also made the cuff longer. That was something else that I've noticed that I don't like in socks, is that I used to make the cuff really short, and I don't really like that. So I am gonna try and knit these a little bit longer. And so I'm doing the blue. I'll do the blue for heel, cuff, and toe, and then the purple for the majority. And I'll try this, and then I'll rip out the other and do the same with that. So right now I'm just gonna do a vanilla sock. I'll do the same slip stitch, heel, and then I'm gonna do the toe at 16 stitches instead of 8 because I like that a lot better. It works for my toes better, I think. So yeah, otherwise I don't have a lot to say about this except for this needle is the Knit Pro like Zing needle, I think, in a US 1. It's a 40-inch. These suck. Don't buy these. They're very cheap. It's so light. You could see I can't, like, the connector is like it catches super easily, so that's not good. I would not recommend these. Once I get either one of these finished so I can put that needle on this, or I buy a new needle, this will just be my needle to use for the toe and the heel when I use 9-inch circulars, because it's not good. So I think I have my final WIP here. This is just in a Bombas bag, but these are my Halloween stripy socks from Freckled Whimsy. So Freckled Whimsy does, I don't even know if she actually does a shop update, but she does monthly clubs. And as far as I know right now, she has a Halloween club and a Christmas club. So they're pretty much always closed, but she will post, or if you sign up for her newsletter, she'll put out an email or post on Instagram that she has spots open. So I went ahead and signed up for the Halloween club. There's only 4 months left. So I put my row 1 subscription on pause and signed up for this instead. But the reason I did that is because she does self-striping socks, and I've not had a hand-dyed self-striping sock at all, and I really wanted to try it. So I got my first color, and the labels are so cute. So this one is called Ghosts in the Graveyard. It's Halloween Club number 9, January 2025. It's a 12 stripe repeat, and it's a 75-25 blend. So I am doing Kayla from Crazy Sock Ladies heel toe do-si-do sock pattern. Here is the yarn. Isn't it gorgeous? And then here's the sock. Oh, I just love this pattern in self-striping yarn. Whoops, I dropped the yarn, but. So, this one I did do 64 stitches. I did 2x2 ribbing, and I tried to make it longer. I might have actually done 20. And then I just did the pattern until I wanted to be done. And slip stitch, heel flap, and gusset. The one thing I regret, which I didn't realize until just the other day, I was watching Allie in Sweatpants, and she said that she pulls from the other side of the ball for the heel in self-striping so that you don't disturb the stripe pattern. And I wish I had done that now, because you can see where I joined, the stripe looks weird. And it's like, it's not a huge deal, but I'll do it for the next one. So that's just a tip if that's something you never thought about, because I certainly hadn't. But I am doing this on 9-inch circular. This is the ChowGoo red lace 9-inch circular. This is not my favorite way to knit socks. It kind of hurts my hand. Well, it doesn't really hurt my hurt. It's just uncomfortable. But it definitely does have a plus where you can just like knit round and round. However, I do have to move it to a longer needle for the heel, and then of course for the toe you have to do that. So yeah, I've just been really enjoying doing this, and I'm excited to see what the rest of the club is. I'm not sure if I'll if I'll sign up again after these 4 months. We'll see. But that's my last sock whip. I did sign up for the option for the mini skein, so this was the mini skein for that. And then one other fun random thing I want to say. As you can see, I have a lot of WIPs, and I like to keep them all in different bags. And I got so annoyed at not being able to find scissors or a tape measure. And so one thing I did that I'm so glad I did was I bought a huge pack of these little tape measures on Amazon, and I bought a big pack of these little scissors. And so I actually have a pair of scissors and a tape measure in every single one of my project bags. Also, my mom had gotten me a chapstick advent calendar for Christmas that had like 12 or 13 chapsticks in it. So I actually have a chapstick in every single one of my project bags too. And so that might be a bit extra, but if you're annoyed by that too, just do that. I know it sucks buying from Amazon, but it's really nice to have these in every single one of my bags so I don't have to go fishing for it. All right, so if you're still with me, thank you. I just have a couple more things to go through for acquisitions. I did do a pre-order for I think the collection was called Nightfall from Hue Loco. When it came around, I really wanted to buy a sweaters quantity, but hand-dyed yarn is expensive, and sweaters quantity in DK for me, it would have been a lot. It would have been like over $200, and I was just like, no, I'm not gonna do that. But I did get one skein. I don't know where the ball band went, but it's so pretty. I already have it caked up, but I did just get this in the mail a week or two ago. And it's DK weight yarn, and I'm going to make a hat. So I don't know what pattern I'm gonna use yet, but that is an acquisition. My last acquisition, a couple weeks ago, Yarnaceous Fibers was having a sale, and so I went ahead and ordered a couple skeins. I got this one. It's called, I can't read their writing, so I don't know what the color is, but it's the Salta fingering. It's 85% superwash, 15% nylon. So I got that for a pair of socks because I want to do just like a dainty pattern in just a plain sock color. And then I got this one, which is DK. It's the Bronto DK weight. It's 85-15 again, for a pair of DK weight socks, because I've never done DK weight socks. So I'm excited for these to be like chunky warm socks. And maybe it was because of the sale. I'm not exactly why this happened, but I got some free stitch markers, so that was exciting. So that's my other acquisition. I do have a lot of acquisitions coming up because I've ordered a lot of yarn, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm a shopper, I like to shop. So you may expect to see quite a few acquisitions on this podcast. I like get obsessed with buying one thing and then it moves. So like for a long time I was just buying fabric, and right now it's like yarn because all I want to do is knit. So the next podcast will probably be pretty acquisition heavy, but it's at the end, so you can always skip that if you like. So I think that is finally everything. If you stick to the end, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I will be trying to keep up doing these podcasts so I can just keep track of what I'm making and stuff. You can also follow me on Instagram. I am a sewist, so I post a lot of sewing as well, but I've kind of lost my sewing mojo for just the winter maybe because it's cold and I want to cozy up and knit, so I've been knitting a lot more. And like I said, I have that information about yarn sources on my Instagram. I don't have that information for these things that I've purchased because I purchased them before I realized that I wanted to make that a priority. So you can look for that moving forward. And yeah, I think that's everything I have. So thanks again, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.